Le Nissan Kick-Split 2025 a beaucoup de plus. Apple CarPlay intégré pour jouer vos tunes préférées, des fonctions avancées de sécurité, un rendement énergétique remarquable, puis même la petite odeur de char neuf qu'on aime tant. Tout ça en plus pour moins. Le Nissan Kick-Split 2025 est le véhicule neuf le plus abordable au Québec. Achetez-le à partir de seulement 22 774 $, incluant un rabais à l'achat comptant de 2 600 $. Profitez de cette offre avantageuse chez votre concessionnaire dès maintenant. Jusqu'au 2 mars, des conditions s'appliquent. Détails chez Nissan.
Well, it was one of the biggest stories this week, right? News that Lotto Quebec and Groupe CH, the owner of the Montreal Canadiens, are about to sign an agreement to open up a brand new gaming lounge at the Bell Center, a gambling hall, if you will. The establishment will be equipped with several hundred video lottery machines, as well as sports betting terminals. Of course, this news has received a lukewarm reception from a lot of places, including City Hall. Mayor Valerie Plante on Wednesday saying that any project like this would require, quote, social acceptability. Now many advocates are calling out the potential problems that such a plan could enable, such as creating gambling addictions and more. Jeff Derevensky is on the line, a McGill University psychologist and the director of the International Center for Youth Gambling Problems and High-Risk Behaviours right here in Montreal. Welcome to the show. Can I call you Jeff?
Please do, Elias.
So let's look. First off, why don't I get your initial reactions to this news? What were your reactions when you saw this news?
Well, it's not a big surprise that Lotto Quebec has always been trying to open a casino or a mini casino, as this is going to be, in downtown Montreal. Our casino, which is fully operational, is often very difficult for people to get to.
And when we look at the addiction here that people face, an addiction of gambling, why do you think a spot like this would exacerbate a problem that already exists?
Well, we know that social acceptability, as Mayor Plante talked about, but also that accessibility and availability will bring people to gambling venues. And the more people go to gambling venues, the more likely they are to develop a problem.
Is there a difference in your mind towards the betting on sporting events aspect of this proposed plan versus the video lottery or other types of game aspect of the plan? Do you make a sort of, do you view them differently?
Well, let me just say that Lotto Quebec has done this previously with a group that they refer to as salons de jeu in other jurisdictions in other parts of the province. What's different about this system is that they're now partnering with the Montreal Canadiens. And what we're seeing internationally, especially in the U.S., is gambling operators are now partnering with professional teams. And this, once again, increases social acceptability, and it also will bring more people to the Bell Center and to this particular environment.
And you know, I've seen these types of gambling halls in the UK. You rightly mentioned that in the US right now it's exploding. But I have to sort of point out, like, I've gambled at one of these places. I put a sports bet on a team at one of these places, but I don't develop an addiction. I do it once. It provides me with a couple of hours of entertainment, then I move on. What's going on here?
You're quite correct. It's a very small percentage of the people who do develop a gambling problem. Vast majority of people do gamble, but once again, it's a small percentage. But those individuals also negatively impact not only themselves, but their family members as well.
We're with Jeff Derevensky, a McGill University psychologist, director of the International Center for Youth Gambling Problems and High-Risk Behaviours, based right here in Montreal. So, Jeff, on that end, right, it's an addiction, right? That small percentage that get addicted. An argument that I could see being made is these people are addicted. If they're not going to gamble at a government-run institution, they'll just go to their iPad now or their smartphone, and they'll bet with an offshore operator that doesn't care at all about health, right? So
you're quite correct, and I think that's where the big fallacy may be, with Lotto Quebec arguing that this is going to reduce the amount of gambling addiction or reduce the amount of wagering online. It wouldn't seem unusual for me if you're at the Bell Center to go next door and place a bet on a Canadiens game. However, you're much more unlikely to do that if you want to bet on Vancouver or bet on a National Football League team in the U.S. So I think that's a problem. The good news is about this environment, I'm told by informed sources, that they will develop a number of responsible gambling features so people can self-exclude themselves from this environment. They will have crisis intervention for people who are experiencing gambling problems while they're in this new center.
You know, I've heard the horror stories about what happens, let's say, in Montreal bars, right, that have these devices, right? They're allowed 5 devices per bar, and I've heard the horror stories there. Is there something different when it happens in an environment like the Bell Center where there are a lot more people? It's one thing when it happens in a dingy, dark bar. It's another thing when it happens in a sort of tourism and entertainment complex. Does that change anything for you?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons Lotto Quebec is trying to do this. Typically in a bar, it's very unsupervised. There are no trained people who are dealing with problem gambling. And so what they're trying to do is centralize things by moving some of the machines out of the bars, moving some of the machines out of the casinos, because the number of machines in the province is controlled by the province. So you can't just keep adding machines ad infinitum.
And so if the number of machines in the province remains the same, the grand total number stays the same, but more of them move out of bars and into the Bell Center, could a case be made that it actually gets better for gambling addictions?
One could make that case, but the problem is the converse to that is that you're now increasing exposure to all the people who are working downtown who could just walk over. You're increasing exposure to people who are coming in, staying at the downtown hotels. So this is something that we will have to look at very, very carefully and study the information. Clearly, the president of Lotto Quebec has said this environment will be open from noon to 3 in the morning. People are not in the Bell Center at 3 in the morning watching a Montreal Canadiens game.
While I have you with us, Jeff, I want to talk a bit about the psychology here. And why is it that, so many people can do that quote unquote responsible gambling? I'll place a bet once a year, let's say. And what's the psychology behind those that they just can't do it, that become addicted?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why people do that. They do. Often individuals who are developing a problem are trying to escape from a wide variety of problems, because when you're playing these machines, you don't think about family problems, work-related problems, or school-related problems. Other people have an addictive personality. So there are a myriad of reasons why people gamble and why some people have a difficult time not setting limits, because everybody could set limits, but it's adhering to those limits that becomes problematic.
Is there any aspect of this plan that to you is particularly nefarious?
Well, I think the fact is that they're in building an environment that's located centrally. They're attaching it to the Bell Center, where you have a lot of young males going to watch the games. We know young males are more prone to gambling and more prone to gambling problems. And you're going to attract lots and lots of people. And the more people you attract, the more possibility that someone will develop a gambling problem. The good news, as I said, was that I've been told that they will have trained counselors there, crisis intervention people who can work with people right on the spot and help minimize the problems.
Well, we'll be keeping track of this one and see what the actual plans end up being. I want to thank you for coming on the show this morning. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Elias.
Jeff Derevensky is a McGill University psychologist, director of the International Center for Youth Gambling Problems and High-Risk Behaviors. It's based right here in Montreal.